Illinois State University is among the colleges nationwide reporting some of its international students have had their visas revoked. This comes after the Trump administration has been cracking down on international students in the U.S. for their involvement in campus protests. The Associated Press also reports visas are getting revoked due to students with traffic violations.
So if you're an international student, unfortunately, you are next on the chopping block from the Trump administration. Yesterday, all over the news, there are tons of universities that had almost all of their international students' visas just completely canceled. And it's really hard for me to assume that this was an individual thing when there was groups and groups and groups of people from universities that their visa was completely canceled. It seems like a pretty non-specialized targeted attack. It seems like it's not an individual thing, and it seems more like if you're an international student with a visa, we're going to cancel it kind of thing. Because there was tons of students at UCLA. There was a university in Massachusetts where a bunch of people got their visas canceled. And the more you search it on the news, the more universities are coming up being like, yep, all of our international students have no more visas. So far from what I've counted, it seems like 200 to 300 students' visas are canceled. And that, again, that's... If you really had that many people that you wanted to cancel their visas because they all did something wrong, it seems like more of a systematic thing would happen instead of just like a lump sum grouping them, because why would you let all of those people stay here that long to the point where you actually could group them up and cancel their visas? So if you're a student with an international visa here just to get some education, I would watch out, because you might not be able to live here anymore, unfortunately.
Over 300 student visas have been revoked across the U.S., and here's a site where you can see how many from your university were impacted. Higher Ed Insight has an interactive map that they're consistently updating that shows how many students from each university were impacted by student visa changes. Obviously, this is all gathered from local news media and then also just reports by the university. But inside higher education, a great platform to really see if your alma mater is impacted or if how many students at your university have been impacted. I hope this helps. Stay tuned for further resources for immigrants and international students.
The Trump administration is revoking hundreds of international student visas and revoking their student status in SEVIS, which is the Students Exchange Visa Information System, each week. International student advisors haven't even been informed of this. They've only found out because they've logged into these systems and found out that students from primarily Arab and Muslim countries are the ones having their visas revoked en masse. Student university protests have always been the way that we have pushed for real progressive change in this country. And the Free Palestine movement threatens our long-standing horrific relationship with Israel. And we remember that Trump tried to do a Muslim ban his first time in office. ICE is doing this because it wants to arrest as many people as possible, send them to for-profit detention centers either in Louisiana or in El Salvador. If you are an international college student in the United States, just know that your visa status may not be as stable as you think that it is. And for American students who are going to school with international students, it is your duty to protect your community and to de-arrest whenever you can.
Over the past few days, at least 147 international students in the U.S. had their visas revoked and could face deportation. According to the New York Times, this move affected students at a wide range of universities, from private universities like Harvard or Stanford to public ones like UT Austin and Minnesota State University. The University of California had dozens of cases reported across its campuses. Several immigration lawyers told the New York Times that they had started receiving calls and emails from students who had been notified by the State Department that their visas had been revoked or statuses had been terminated without clear justifications. Now, criminal convictions have always put people at risk of losing their visas, but what these people are being cited for example, traffic infractions and participating in political events, these are rarely cited as grounds for losing your visa. Further, lawyers said that the Trump administration often shared no reason at all for revoking people's visas, leaving them only to guess why students were targeted. Miriam Fedblum, who is the chief executive of the President's Alliance in Higher Education Immigration, which represents more than 570 public and private colleges and universities across the nation, said, quote, "This upends all usual practice by the government. They're terminating student statuses in a way they've never done before, with virtually no explanation and little recourse to correct or appeal by either the institution or the students."
Did you know that over 600 students have had their student visas revoked? 600 students. People who came here and are spending their hard-earned money to get educational degrees so that they can become specialized in their fields. And I just want to ask you guys, how is this making America great? I'm sure y'all know how expensive college is for the average American. International students pay even more. Most of the time, they pay twice as much as what somebody who lives in the United States pays for their college. Just imagine how much money these people are bringing into the country, and they're coming here legally. Why are we discouraging people from investing in our educational institutes? How is this making America great?
It's happening. Student visas are being revoked without reason or notice. I just talked to a student and she sent me this. Notice she received an email that her status is now over. Her I-20 is now being terminated. From one day to another, she's now in violation of her student status. Why did this happen to her? Well, a few months ago, she was driving in a routine traffic stop. Her registration wasn't in order. That's it. She got a ticket. She's now in the system. Literally a few months later, she's getting this student visa terminated. Now, this is happening all over the country. Hundreds of students are being canceled. And these are minor violations or no violations at all. If this happened to you, contact an attorney right away. We're going to try to fight this and try to reinstate the student. I've got a lot of students. I'm trying to get them back instead. We got to fight back. Keep deserving students in the United States.
I'm getting deported in 13 days, unless I can find a job that's going to sponsor me to stay. So spend the day with me applying for jobs and trying to find something. I have been applying to jobs on LinkedIn all morning. And then someone commented on my video yesterday about this website that has all these jobs that sponsor visas. So I'm applying to jobs on this as well.
The hardest part about this whole process is it's so specific as to what you can do a job for. So like I did media, so it has to be in media. It has to be in office 2 days a week. It has to be like 40 hours a week, has to be $15 an hour. Like there's so many rules on it. You can't just do any job, which is the hardest part because there's so many jobs, but you're only allowed to do like specific ones. Another thing that's so hard is like you can find the most perfect job and then they won't sponsor visas. Like one of the #1 questions on the application form is, will you now or will you ever in the future need visa sponsorship? And it's so annoying because I don't need visa sponsorship, but whenever they hear you're like an immigrant, they're like, not getting involved with this.
A total of 12 Harvard students and graduates have had their visas revoked, and more visas are getting revoked. We're talking about potentially hundreds of visas, if not thousands of visas. If you hate America, you're not gonna be here very long, especially if you're on a visa.
So multiple students at UW have woken up to the fact that their student visas have just been revoked and they are now in the US illegally. This administration is turning students into criminals. This is so beyond. Can you imagine studying in a foreign country and just waking up one day and seeing that your visa has been revoked and that you are now illegal in that country and could face huge fines and also be completely deported and maybe sent to an El Salvadorian prison? What the UW only found out about this because they just started cross-checking the visas of their international students and found out that some of them have been revoked. And they don't really know what to do about this. These students now risk deportation, and we've seen how deportations have gone. It's not pretty. These are college students who have been approved to study in the United States. How is this at all justifiable? At all. Make it make sense.
12 students in the state of Oklahoma have reportedly had their visas revoked by the federal government. Oklahoma State University has confirmed with us that 8 students have had their visas revoked. The University of Central Oklahoma says they believe as many as 4 students have had their visas revoked. Spokespeople for both UCO and OSU have called these actions unprecedented. Right now, it's not clear exactly why these students' visas were revoked.
11 students at Stony Brook University had their visas taken away today. I will say it again. 11 students at Stony Brook University had their visas taken away. Why the hell would they do that? I thought they were only going after criminals. Because the government disagreed with them on their point of views. That's exactly what it was, and there is no sugarcoating it. Also, from what I've read in the media, there is no actual substantial evidence that these people were out protest. They're just assuming that they were. This happened, I think, last year or 2 years ago at Stony Brook, where they took people out of their houses, they took their phones unlawfully when they were at protest. They've made it very clear where they stand in all of this. So I am urging y'all to be careful. I am also urging y'all to open your eyes and see that this was never about deporting criminals. This was about making America white. Okay?
This is the small university in Northwest Missouri that 2 of my sons graduated from. 43 students affiliated with Northwest have had their visas revoked, according to an email sent by President Lance Tatum. What are we doing? International students come to rural Missouri to study, and they pay for their education in cash. Sometimes they stay in our communities to be engineers and doctors, computer scientists, and now we're revoking visas for students in Northwest Missouri. You know how they're pulling the funding from higher education. I'm starting to think that this is part of it. Defund these small universities even more. Revoke the visas of people who are paying cash and came here willingly to study. International students do nothing but better communities like mine.
So having perspective, guys, it's very important when you want to discuss certain topics. You read this headline, 300 international students have their visas revoked, and all of a sudden it's some kind of freedom of speech conspiracy, right? Wrong. There's over 400,000 student visas for international students in the United States just in 2024, and over 1 million international students altogether in this country. So when you look at it from a perspective of 300 of them came in with nefarious reasons to be here. They are basically pro-Hamas. That's what they are. They are Islamic terrorists. That's who these 300 students are. So you can cry all you want, but if you look at the perspective, 300 is not a crisis. It's not the end of the Constitution of the United States. It is a slow movement to take our country back from Islamic terrorists. Like it or not, it's not the end of the world. There's still 400,000 on these visas with another 600,000 international students living their lives just fine in America. They're not worried about ICE. You know why? Because they're not out there radically assaulting innocent people on college students and causing riots. So it's not about political affiliation, religion, or anything else, folks, other than the fact if you want to come here for an education, behave yourself. And obviously, these 300 can't.
They're not just revoking legal status, they're declaring people dead in the system. Yes, you heard that right. And here's the horrifying part. They'll be added to the Social Security Administration's death master file. The list used to flag people who have died, but these people, they're very much alive. The goal here, to cut them off from banks, credit cards, jobs, and benefits, making it impossible to live here unless they self-deport. That's not just cruel, it's erasure, and it's targeting people who follow the legal process. They're not removing undocumented immigrants, they're punishing those who play by the rules.